Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Let's Get Real. I'm so glad that you're here. Christine Gritman is here. I'm using a whole new system this time, so hopefully we don't have any issues. So far, so good, right,
So
Christine?
far, so good.
So far, so good. So I'm going to do a brief intro and just read your bio, Christine. But I really just want to welcome everybody back to the show. If you didn't read my blog post, you can check it out on my website, 520eastbrands.com. And you can see I took a little bit of a hiatus just because my kids got back from camp and I'm running out of time. My oldest is leaving for college and I just really feel like I need to spend this last school year as much as I can with them. So I've had these like days where like, hey mom, can you take me here and can you take me there? And I think even a few months ago I'd be like, oh, but now I'm like, yeah, you bet. We will drive to
Yeah,
Kingdom Come.
togetherness.
Absolutely. So I'm really glad to be back on the show and I'm so glad to have you as my guest. So for those who don't know Christine, let me tell you just a little bit about her. She empowers professionals to step into their personal brands in a bigger, bolder way on social media. You can do it. You can. And she'll
Okay,
teach you how.
I
She's
will.
spoken on stages worldwide and is a frequent expert guest on podcasts, live streams, Twitter chats, and blog posts, as well as hosting her own Twitter Chat About Brand, and live interview show, Let's Talk About Brand. So today we're going to talk about brand and how you put your
Yeah.
voice, your real voice into your brand for yourself and or for your business. So
And I'm just
Christine,
sharing this. I'm not like texting a friend. I'm sharing this out so that my peeps can see it too.
yay, thank you, thank you. We're both kind of like, as with everybody who's doing this, we're all kind of muddling through with
Yes.
technology, but hopefully it's all working. We'll find out, I guess. So Christina, I know I read your bio, but tell us a little bit more in your own words, who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. So I am Christine Gritman, of course. And my business is in the middle of a shift, but basically the core of it for the past 5 years has stayed true, which is that there's people out there doing incredible things and they're not really sure about how social media can help them get it out there in a bigger, bolder way so that they can be found by the people who need them. So originally 5 years ago, that meant that I was doing social media for small local businesses. That changed to teaching business owners how to do their own social media. And then I realized that the most fun kernel of that, and that could be really applied to all sorts of different people, is the personal branding element. So I still do help teach small business owners how to do their own social, but I also work with professionals of all sorts to put their personal brand out there in bigger, bolder ways. And that includes fellow marketers, because of course the cobbler's children have no shoes. Knowing how to do it doesn't mean you do it for yourself.
Absolutely. How often am I posting regular blog posts these days? Mostly they're
It's
about the
it's
show.
tricky. It's tricky to get. Well, here's the thing, and you know the truth of this, Shane. It's not actually hard to do. You just need to do it. And you need to kind of have some degree of plan for what to do. I'm very unplanned with my social, but first of all, I enjoy it more than my clients do. But also, I mean, I'm not as planned as I could be, but there's certain things that I do have planned, like my promos for my show every week on Fridays and my chat every week on Tuesdays. That is planned. I actually have those promotional posts scheduled out from now through some point in early October. And actually, today I'm planning on handling most of October and November. So I kind of plan what I can plan so that frees me up for the rest of it to just be like engaging and building
Right.
relationships, because that is more important than what you post. And I know that's part of what we're going to talk about today, but I try
Yes.
to get that stuff out of the way so that the rest of me is just me being present and real.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like even with my clients, I do that where I take what has to be scheduled, what has to go
Yeah,
on a certain day and a certain time, I schedule that out. Then it just rolls. The rest of the week, I'm on there as my client, engaging and getting into conversation. And,
that's so important.
yeah, because that's really what we're doing here. Anybody can post. There's
Yeah.
really not a science to creating a post. But I think one of the things, and we've talked about this, especially on Twitter, people will say, well, what kind of posts do you put on Twitter? I don't put posts on Twitter. That's not a thing. Twitter's about conversing and having conversation. I wouldn't walk into a room of people with a sign, with my post. I would walk in and try to meet some people and have a conversation. And that's what you excel in. That's what we all really work at on social, whether it's for ourselves or for our brands.
And a good post is going to start conversations or further conversations. It will invite conversation. So many people feel like figuring out what to post is the thing. And then once they post it, it's the end. And it's exactly the opposite. A good post is the beginning. A good post is going to start something. And people, they agonize over the beginning part. What am I going to post? And then they set it and forget it. And that is exactly what they need to not do.
Right, exactly. So there's a lot of people out there that, they own a business or they might be a marketer. And so they're kind of thinking about content. What kind of content do I need to put out that'll be engaging? But I know one of the things that you do is work on personal branding, and how those of us who are used to doing it for clients really need to focus, like we just said, on our own. So what are some of the top things that you tell people, this is what you need to be focusing on when you're defining your personal brand?
One really big thing is that what you do is not unique. The more you can embrace and understand the fact that what you do is not what's special about you, and what you do isn't even the primary selling point, that's the first part, because other people do what you do no matter what it is. So the thing that is going to be the difference maker is you. And what does that even mean? What does you mean? Especially people who are consultants where, like myself, I'm the product that I'm selling. But even if people are selling, a different type of product or service, the fact remains that people will make a lot of their buying decision based on feeling. Because a lot of times the data points are awfully similar in terms of what people can do, what results they can get, their methodologies. We're not as original as we think we are. The thing that is going to get people to choose you over another brand is your whole vibe and how you communicate that. So you can communicate that by understanding your brand voice and sort of how you want to make people feel after they've engaged in any way with your brand. Are you kind of the trusted voice of authority? Are you kind of serious? Are you kind of dropping knowledge left and right? Are you very conversational? Are you funny? Are you witty? Figuring out all of that. And that comes from the person. That's another really big thing that I need people to always understand, which is we're not creating a brand. We are unearthing a brand. We are discovering what's already there that you want to amp up and identifying it, defining it, and getting it out there in a consistent and recognizable way. It is, especially with personal branding, it is never about invention. It is always about, revealing it.
I love that. Unearthing the brand. I love that. That's great. That's lovely. So when let's say, sometimes we'll get business owners on here who are watching. Let's say that they're a small business or even a large business and they're the CEO or the founder, and they want to have their personal social branding out there, but they also are managing the brand voice for their company. What advice do you have for kind of threading those two together and making them individual? Or do you just go with one voice? What's your recommendation?
It really does depend, but generally speaking, when it's not a situation where the whole brand is a person, so we're not talking about like me, right? My company is Christine Gritman Inc. The brand and the person are one and the same, but there's a lot of times where someone is the founder of a company, or maybe even if they are kind of a solopreneur or have a small team, there's like a different entity there. I always recommend that they have it separate and that the person of the personal brand is a big champion for the brand. And I think it needs to go that direction. I don't think it's the brand, promoting the heck out of the person quite as much as it is the person promoting the brand. And part of that is because people trust people. And if you trust the person, you're more likely to trust that their brand is going to be good. You want to trust the brand too, but the fact is a brand isn't going to sell you on a person the same way a person is going to sell you on a brand. I also think that it allows the person flexibility, because let's say that company gets an offer, a great offer from a bigger entity to buy it out or something. It's important that the person still has their personal brand as bringing value to that type of space, so that they have freedom to, well, first of all, that might make the company more appealing. I have a friend whose company got sold, and the place that bought them was honestly interested in the person. They're like, we want the person to work with us. We're going to buy their company and they are going to work for us. And my friend was fine with that. So there's that. But then also, if you're like, you know what, I built this thing, I'm ready for my next adventure. If you have a strong personal brand, you can leave that. You can say, I built this, it was great, it's in good hands now, I feel good about this deal. I'm going to go do something else. Or I'm going to kind of rest on my laurels, but maybe also kind of do some speaking, do some writing, not be in the work so much as moving to that thought leader space. And if you've built your personal brand and have built it outside of just being the founder of such and such company, that's a much stronger position to put yourself into, because that means that everything that you're building now will last beyond your current position, will last beyond your current opportunities, your current interests. But again, it is very important that the core remain the same. Your core values, the core of what you care about, and the core of where your expertise is. Because again, your expertise is also a separate thing from your current position or your current what you do. So making sure that all those things are really developed from an inside out direction.
That's great advice. And it really, for 2021 has been my goal, because for so long I was just behind the keyboard of all of the clients I worked with. Nobody really knew I was out there doing what I do. It's hard to grow your business that way. So really that was the impetus for starting the live stream, was come out behind the keyboard, let people know we're here. This is what we do. And
proud of you.
Work. Thank you. It's a little scary, but good things come from facing your fears, I guess. Right. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I'll hear from people, and this is a big one. They'll own a small business and they'll say, I keep posting on social and I'm using all these platforms and I'm not seeing any results. And my first response to that is stop just posting. The post, like you said, is step one. But what other kinds of, off the cuff advice would you give someone who says, I keep trying social and I'm not seeing results? How would you advise them to adjust their attitude or their tactics?
Yeah, I hear that a lot, actually, from clients. And social doesn't work for me is a big one. And, to your point, I do ask them what they're posting about, first of all. I ask them about beyond I'll get to engagement strategy in a second, but the first thing I say is, what are you posting and why? And a lot of times they're posting something that's sort of broadcast for passive consumption, as opposed to starting a conversation. I'm like, there is no obvious way for people to engage with this post. The only thing to do is to like or not. And what you really want are conversations. What you want are comments, because what the algorithm wants are comments, right? But also you want people to feel sufficiently engaged in what you're putting out there. So you have to be starting conversations, ask a question, invite some sort of feedback, make it really easy for people to do something that isn't just scroll on by. Also, make sure you have a reason for posting things. If your reason for posting is that you haven't posted in a week, that's an insufficient reason for posting. You are asking somebody for their attention. Their attention is being pulled in a million directions. Everyone's asking for their attention all day long. So what are you doing that's worthy of their attention? Why did you post this thing? It can't be because it was the right moment in the grid. But then separate from that, and what I think you're really getting at is, I tell all my clients don't want to do this, but they have to, and it works when they do. I say, your own post should not be the only place where you're showing up. You need to engage with others. And by engage with others, I don't mean hop in on someone's thread and say, that's great, everyone should buy from me. It's not going in there and promoting yourself. It is going in there and becoming a part of the same audiences that you want. Because if people see you showing up in the same comment threads over and over, they're going to click over. They're going to get curious. It's especially important to make sure you make a regular habit of engaging with similar but not the same type of referral sources or, potential partners. It's a really good thing to show up in those spaces with value, because first of all, you show up with a comment. that's giving them engagement. That is already valuable. You have shown up in their comment thread with something that will actually help their post get seen more because you are giving them an actual comment. So there's that. But then also, everyone who sees their post is now also going to see your name and comment, which means that they might click over to you, especially the more familiar you become. It also informs the algorithm. The more you hang out in certain places, the more the algorithm detects commonalities and sort of knows what to suggest to you, but also knows who to suggest you to. So that's really huge also. So I would say make sure that you are having conversations elsewhere, because if you are only, you need to at baseline be responding to the comments you receive, right? But if those are the only conversations you're having, the only people you're going to be talking to are people who already know who you are. And the whole point of social media is discovery, right? It's discovery and it's also relationship building, but two different levels. You can't build relationships if people aren't talking with you, right? You have to have those conversations happen somehow, and you want to start new ones. And the only way to do that is by not solely preaching to the choir.
Absolutely. And you're right. They already know about you. They know you exist. Go out and find new people who don't yet know you exist and get involved with them. Start a conversation. That's what
Give love to the people who do know you also. Like, make sure you're encouraging deeper conversations. One thing I've really started trying to prioritize is adding people on multiple platforms. Like you and I started talking on Twitter, but we are also connected on LinkedIn. We're also connected on Instagram. I'm trying to do more of that. At some point, I'm going to actually hire somebody to do this whole like crazy thing where they fill out my CRM, where they make sure that I'm connected to people in all the places, but also invite them to join my email list, all these things. Like I want it to be full on. And part of that also is I make sure that I'm not exactly the same on I'm very highly recognizable on every channel. You're going to get the same Christine.
Right.
You're going to get, slightly
There's
different.
Always red.
I know, but so I'm recognizable, I'm consistent, I'm me, but you're not going to be getting the same exact content on every channel from me. My Twitter presence is different from my LinkedIn presence, which is different from my Instagram presence. You're going to get slightly different elements of me and angles of me, and it gives you a more well-rounded picture of who I am and what I'm about. And so I like getting that from other people too, and I like really rounding out those relationships.
I agree. And it makes it fun, but it's part of what's challenging is developing that brand voice and making sure that it's threading through on all the platforms in a way that makes sense to the people you're engaging with there. But you're right, crossover and making sure that we're following each other on different platforms is so important because you get to know people. I mean, my Instagram is all personal. So you get to see my dogs and my kids and, what I'm cooking. So, and what I'm doing on my Peloton. So, all of these things are very important to me, but none of that shows up on LinkedIn. That's all very different. So I think that's great advice.
Same. I always struggle with my Instagram brand because, I tried at various points to make it more professional. At other times it was more personal. It's always kind of a mishmash. But I've learned that when I stick to all professional, it doesn't do as well.
Right.
I've also learned I'm making data-driven decisions here. I'm not huge on data. I need to improve this. But one thing that's been abundantly clear from looking at the data is that any post with my face on it on my Instagram does a million times better than anything else. So I'm trying to take that lesson. I'm doing different things in stories from what I do on my feed. I just recently, like a month ago, started doing reels. So we'll see how that goes. But those kind of tie into my GIFs. Like if you're used to seeing my animated GIFs on Twitter and places, then my reels will feel very familiar.
Yes.
So I'm just playing with
anybody who doesn't follow Christine on Twitter, follow her on Twitter so you can see her GIFs because they're fantastic.
Also, Giphy.com/Christine Gritman.
There you
go. You can see them all there. I have some new ones that I keep meaning to make because my GIFs, I didn't realize that literally millions upon millions of people would be seeing these things. So I don't have my name on them anywhere. So my new batch is I have to do a new batch anyway because as you'll see from my gifts, I used to have bright red hair
Yep.
at the ends, and I don't anymore. So I need to make new gifts anyway. But my new gifts are going to have some sort of watermark or something, maybe my
That's good.
Twitter handle, maybe my name. But right
Yeah.
now, they are a branding tool, but you have to know it's me in order for it to build
Right.
my brand in your head.
Right.
So
And
I
those
got
of
to
us
make it
who
so it's
do
for
know
discovery
you,
too.
right. And those of us who do know you, we know when
Yeah.
you see even the red start scrolling up, you know what's coming.
If you know, then you know, you know?
If you know,
But
you
if
know.
you don't know, I want you to know too.
Right, exactly. Well, Christine, this was great advice. This was wonderful to share with the viewers. I appreciate you being here and being my first guest back after my short hiatus. So thank you, and for like helping me out with Restream and getting used to this new platform. I like it. I really like it. It's
I'm
a
getting
lot
used to
easier
it
to manage.
too. I had
Yeah.
previously for years used Restream as my streaming destination, but I put my show together in another platform and then I'd kind of broadcast it to Restream so that it could go to different platforms. But now I'm using just Restream Studio like this, and it's
Yeah.
different. I had some glitches that were user error in last week's show. That was just me, but I figured them out. So this week's should be smoother again. But I
Well,
like
like I
it.
always say, we're social, not we're social more than media. The media, we're all still learning.
Yeah, Andrew, we're using Restream.
Yes, we're using Restream. Is that Andrew asking? Yeah, and Monina, I saw you were here. Thanks, Mo, for showing up.
Monina. Yeah, I was glad to see her here. She piped in at the beginning.
Yes, she did. She did, and it was good to see her. And I'm still learning how to manage all of these pieces, but I like it a lot. So we'll see how it goes.
Yay!
So keep coming back. Next Monday at noon, my guest is going to be Jason Davis of the Nerd Brand Agency, which is a marketing branding agency.
Nice.
And so I'm in a chamber of St. Matthew's chamber, local business chamber with him, and we work together a lot. So I'm excited to introduce him to the audience. And Christine, thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to seeing everybody next week. Until then, keep it real.
Thanks for having me. Bye. Keep it real.
Bye.